It was supposed to be a normal night. Just me, a late taxi ride, and the quiet hum of the city streets. I had no idea that within minutes my life would tilt toward chaos, and the one person I trusted would be the key to survival. The rain fell in relentless sheets, bouncing off the taxi roof, drumming a nervous rhythm into my chest. My phone had died hours ago, and I had no way to call anyone. I tried to steady my thoughts. Just get home, that's all I needed. Home safe. The taxi driver, a middle-aged man with tired eyes and a thin mustache, glanced at me in the rearview mirror. "Where to?" he asked, his voice calm but with an edge I couldn't place. I gave him my address, trying to ignore the way the city felt. Off. Shadows seemed darker than usual, and every street lamp cast a long, trembling light that danced across the wet asphalt. The first 10 minutes were uneventful, but then we took a turn that didn't make sense. I frowned. "This isn't the way to Elm Street," I said. He muttered under his breath and then said, "Don't worry, we'll get there faster this way." I nodded, though unease prickled at my spine. Something in his tone told me he wasn't just focused on getting me home. There was urgency, fear, almost panic. I leaned back in my seat, forcing myself to relax. Maybe I was overthinking. Maybe it was just the storm, the darkness, the empty streets. And then it happened. A black SUV screeched around a corner ahead of us, blocking the road. 2 men in dark jackets stepped out, moving quickly toward the taxi. My stomach dropped. The driver's hands tightened on the wheel. "Stay calm," he muttered, almost to himself. "Stay calm. And don't get out here, trust me." "Wait. What?" My voice trembled. He turned slightly, eyes wide in panic. "Trust me, if you step out, you'll be in danger. Don't move." My heart pounded against my ribcage. I tried to reason, tried to understand. Danger? Who were they? What did he know that I didn't? The men in black circled the taxi, their eyes scanning quickly, weapons subtly visible beneath their jackets. My breath hitched. I realized then that this wasn't random. Someone was after me. The driver's hands were shaking now. He glanced at me through the rearview mirror. "I didn't want you involved. I didn't want you here when they came. But we have no choice." "What are you talking about?" I whispered, terrified. Before he could answer, flashing blue and red lights lit up the streets. Sirens screamed. The taxi was suddenly boxed in by police vehicles, officers pointing guns, shouting commands. "Pull over! Hands where we can see them!" The driver cursed under his breath, slamming on the brakes. "Stay low, don't panic. Just trust me." I sank into the seat, heart hammering. My hands were sweaty, clenching the edge of my seat. I could see officers approaching, their weapons drawn, voices commanding, eyes focused. But even in this moment, the driver refused to step out. "They'll shoot if we move too soon." "Stay calm, stay still." I obeyed, terrified, helpless, and then I noticed something. He wasn't just scared of the police. He was terrified for me. My mind raced. Why? What had I gotten myself into? The SUV's occupant stepped back, appearing frustrated. The police shouted again, closer this time. "Now move your hands! Step out slowly!" The driver shook his head violently. "No, not yet, trust me." I swallowed hard, my mouth dry. Why won't you?" "Because if you step out, they'll think you're involved." He snapped, his voice urgent. "You're not. But if you move wrong, you could get hurt, or worse." I froze. Every instinct screamed at me to bolt, to flee, but something in his voice made me obey. Seconds stretched like hours. I barely breathed. Then I saw it, movement from the shadows near the SUV. Another figure unnoticed by the police, signaling. Something was about to go horribly wrong, and only the driver knew the timing. "Stay low, keep your head down," he hissed. A tense silence fell. Rain poured, tires skidded slightly on the wet street. The driver's grip on the wheel was white-knuckled. My body trembled, but I stayed still. And then a shot rang out. Not at us, but a warning, a controlled shot. The police ducked slightly, startled. The black SUV retreated momentarily. "You see? That's why I said trust me," he whispered. I wanted to scream, to question him, but I couldn't. His focus, his fear, his determination, it was the only thing keeping me alive. Who are they?" I asked, my voice barely audible. "No time to explain," he said grimly. "Just follow my lead." The tension was suffocating. Every second, every heartbeat felt like a countdown. I didn't understand the danger, the stakes, or why I was suddenly at the center of something far bigger than a simple taxi ride. And then a final twist of fate. A police officer approached the window. "Step out slowly," he ordered. The driver froze, weighing the risk. "Not yet, wait," my heart raced. I realized one thing clearly. The moment I trusted him was the moment my life hung by a thread. And in that split second, I understood. I was not going home. Not tonight, not the way I had imagined. Because the taxi driver, the panicked stranger behind the wheel, held the line between survival and disaster. And the police, the streets, the storm, they were all waiting for him to make the next move. "Don't get out here," he whispered one last time. "Trust me, or you won't make it." And then the world held its breath. The rain was relentless, pounding against the taxi windows like a warning drum. I sat frozen in the back seat, hands clutching the edge of the seat, heart hammering with every flash of red and blue lights. The driver's knuckles were white on the steering wheel, jaw tight, eyes darting between the road, the police, and the black SUV that had retreated only temporarily. "They're going to come back," he muttered under his breath, more to himself than to me. "We need to move now before it's too late." "Move? Where?" I whispered, panic rising. "I don't even know what's happening." "You don't need to," he said, voice taut. "Just follow my lead. Don't think, just trust me." He pressed a hidden button on the dashboard, a muffled click echoing in the cabin. Immediately, the taxi's rear doors locked. I flinched. "What did you—" "Not time to explain," he snapped. "We have seconds. Just breathe and stay low." The SUV appeared again, cutting across the wet street like a predator closing in on its prey. My stomach turned. The police shouted in unison, positioning themselves to block our path. It was chaos, flashing lights, shouting voices, tires screeching. And then, without warning, the driver slammed the car into gear. The tires screamed against the wet asphalt as he swerved sharply through a narrow alley, a path I didn't even know existed. "Hold on!" he yelled. I gripped the seat, every muscle tense. The world outside became a blur of rain, shadows, and flashing lights. I couldn't tell if we were running towards safety or deeper into danger. The driver took another sharp turn, narrowly missing a dumpster. My head slammed against the headrest. He shot me a glance in the rearview mirror. "Don't panic, just keep your eyes forward." "Keep breathing." I tried, though my chest felt tight and my mind raced. Who were those men? Why was the police surrounding us? And why had the taxi driver suddenly become my only link to survival? A moment of clarity hit me. This wasn't random. Everything happening around us was calculated, orchestrated, and I had no choice but to trust him. The alley led to a back street I had never seen before. He slowed briefly, then glanced at me. "We can't stay here, they'll find us." Before I could ask what he meant, the black SUV reappeared, blocking the street ahead. But the driver didn't flinch. He swerved again, taking another turn, driving into an underground parking structure. "Follow me," he hissed. "Trust me." Inside the dimly lit parking structure, the taxi blended with the shadows. We parked for a moment, but it wasn't rest. It was strategy. The sound of dripping water echoed through the concrete walls. I peered over the seat, trying to see through the darkness. The SUV was still outside, waiting. The police sirens were distant, but growing closer. "You're calm," I said, voice shaking. "How are you so calm?" He glanced at me, eyes hard but focused. "I've been in situations like this before. You survive by staying ahead of them, by anticipating every move. And right now, the only thing that matters is getting you safe." I swallowed hard. "Safe, you mean?" "Yes," he interrupted. "Safe, you alive. That's the only thing that matters right now. Not me, not them, not the police. You?" I nodded, unsure whether to trust him or scream. But the tone of his voice left no room for hesitation. We stayed in the shadows for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. Then movement outside caught our attention. A pair of officers walked past, scanning the perimeter. The SUV had not moved. Its occupants were waiting, patient, deadly. He whispered instructions. "When they pass, we go. No hesitation." The police officers moved slowly, talking into radios, unaware of our presence. My hands were shaking, but I forced myself to stay low, exactly as he said. Then, with a deep breath, he shifted the car into reverse, carefully backing out into another alleyway. The tires made almost no sound against the wet concrete. "Go!" he hissed, pressing the accelerator. The city streets opened before us again, rain pouring harder, visibility low. Every turn, every shadow, every flash of light could be a threat. My heart raced so fast it felt like it would burst from my chest. And yet, the driver never lost composure. Minutes felt like hours. The black SUV was still on our tail, aggressive, relentless. The police sirens had faded behind us, but the threat was far from over. "Why are they after me?" I finally blurted out. He didn't answer immediately. His focus was on the road, calculating, predicting, surviving. Then he said softly but firmly, "You're caught in something much bigger than yourself. You were never the target, but you are now in the crossfire. And the only way out is to trust me completely." I nodded, swallowing fear and panic. There was no other choice. The taxi took a sharp turn onto an abandoned industrial road, the rainwater flooding the edges of the pavement. I felt trapped, isolated, terrified. And then I realized something. We were moving too fast for anyone to catch us, not the SUV, not the police. The driver's eyes flicked to the rearview mirror. "We're almost at the safe house," he said. "Just a few more minutes, and this night ends, one way or another." I didn't speak, I couldn't. Every nerve in my body was alert. Every instinct screamed that danger was near. But somehow, we were still alive. And in that tense, relentless moment, I understood that survival wasn't about luck. It was about trust, about timing, about the courage to follow someone into the unknown when every instinct screamed to run. The safe house finally appeared, a dimly lit building tucked away from the main street. The driver parked carefully, glancing around. Inside. "Now!" I opened the door, barely able to move. Rain soaked my hair, and my clothes clung to my body. The driver ushered me inside, locking the door behind us. For a moment, silence. Outside, the night raged on. But inside, we were safe, for now. He looked at me, exhausted but resolute. "You're alive," he said simply. "Yes," I whispered, relief and fear mingling in my voice. "But what now?" He didn't answer immediately. He only said, "Now we wait and we plan." Because the night was far from over, and whatever had put us in this nightmare was only beginning to show its teeth. Inside the safe house, the air was thick with tension. Rain pattered against the windows like nervous fingers drumming a warning, and the faint hum of distant traffic reminded me that the city outside had not paused for our chaos. I shivered, not only from the cold, but from the realization that nothing about this night was normal. The taxi driver moved with careful precision, checking the doors, peeking through blinds, ensuring that no one could see inside. Every action carried the weight of someone who had done this before, someone who knew exactly what danger looked like. Finally, he turned to me, his eyes sharp and serious. "You need to understand why this is happening," he said. "It's not random. You've been caught in a web of things far beyond your control. But it's not too late to survive if you listen carefully." I swallowed hard. "Please, just tell me the truth." He sighed, rubbing his temples. "There's a group, well-organized, dangerous. They've been tracking certain people for weeks. You were an unintended witness. Something you did earlier today, something that seemed insignificant, put you in their crosshairs. And when I realized it, I knew I had to get you out of there." "Unintended witness?" I whispered, fear tightening around my throat. What did I see?" "You saw the wrong car at the wrong time in the wrong place," he explained. "And one of their members noticed you noticing them. That's all it took." My mind raced. I couldn't remember anything unusual. Just a man getting out of a black SUV near my apartment earlier. Could that have been it? "Yes," he said, reading my thoughts. "You didn't do anything wrong, but they don't care. To them, anyone who notices is a threat. That's why the SUV followed us. That's why they've been everywhere tonight. That's why the police seemed involved." "The police?" I asked, confused. They were surrounding us. They were after us too?" He nodded grimly. "Not after you, personally. But the situation looked like a crime in progress. People in black SUVs, suspicious activity. They were responding, yes, but they didn't know the full story. Neither did we until now." I sank onto the worn sofa, heart pounding. My chest felt tight, my limbs heavy. "So, all of this was because of that? Because I accidentally saw something?" "Exactly," he said. "And now they're watching. They know you're aware. That's why they won't stop until they're sure you don't interfere. Which is why we have to move carefully. Every decision counts. One mistake and it's over." The room fell silent for a moment. I realized how fragile our situation was, how close I had come to disaster simply by existing at the wrong time. And yet the driver had risked everything to get me here. "Why are you helping me?" I asked, voice trembling. "You don't even know me." He looked at me, eyes hard but honest. "I do know you, you're alive, and that's reason enough. I've seen people caught in this kind of chaos before. Most of them don't make it. But I've learned one thing. The ones who survive are the ones who trust the right person at the right moment. Right now, that's me, and you have to trust me or it's over." I nodded, swallowing my fear. There was no alternative. No one else could save me. Then he moved to a small table in the corner, pulling out a tablet. A map of the city appeared on the screen, with blinking red dots, routes, and escape paths. "These are their checkpoints," he said. "And this is how we'll get you to safety. No shortcuts, no mistakes. One wrong turn, and they'll have you before the police can even react." I stared at the map. My mind couldn't fully process it. How? How do you know all this?" "Experience," he said simply. "And preparation. Let's just say I've been tracking them for a while. Tonight, you were the one who unknowingly triggered the chain of events. But that's okay, I've got a plan, and we're going to see it through." Hours passed as he explained the route, the timing, the precautions. I barely spoke, overwhelmed, terrified, but slowly understanding the scope of the danger. Each step he described carried risk. Each turn could be the one where we failed. And yet, through all the fear, there was a strange sense of calm, because he was there. And for the first time since the chaos began, I felt like survival was possible. Then he paused, looking at me seriously. "There's one more thing," he said. "Once we reach the safe zone, we'll have answers. But you need to prepare yourself. What you'll see, what you'll learn, may change everything you thought you knew about tonight. You're about to find out why they were so desperate to stop you from noticing in the first place." My stomach twisted. "Change everything? How?" "Some secrets," he said, voice low, "are bigger than any one person. And now, you're in the middle of one. Trust me, follow my instructions to the letter and you'll survive. Fail, and it won't just be your life in danger. Others will be too." I swallowed, fear and adrenaline coiling inside me. And whatever awaited us at the end of this escape, it would not be simple, because the black SUV was still out there. The men inside were patient, calculated, relentless. And now, they knew I was paying attention. He handed me a small earpiece. "We'll stay in constant contact. Any sudden movements, any unexpected sounds, you tell me immediately. We have to be ready for anything. The city isn't safe tonight, not for you, and certainly not for them if they think you're going down without a fight." I placed it in my ear, feeling the plastic press cold against my skin. The sound of his calm breathing through the receiver gave me a strange comfort. I realized that this man, this stranger, was my only anchor in a world that had suddenly become unrecognizable. "Okay," I whispered. "I trust you." He nodded, eyes sharp. "Good, because it's time to move. And this next part will be the most dangerous yet. One step wrong, and everything ends tonight." The city outside waited. Rain still poured. Shadows danced in every alleyway. And somewhere in the darkness, the SUV waited too, silent and patient, watching, hunting. We were about to step back into the storm. The rain hadn't stopped, and neither had the adrenaline racing through my veins. Clutching the seat of the taxi, I felt each turn as if it were life or death, because it was. The driver's hands gripped the wheel with a calculated tension, his eyes flicking to the rearview mirror every few seconds. The black SUV was still behind us, relentless, patient, always just beyond the distance that made me feel safe. "Stay calm," he whispered through the earpiece. "Focus, watch the streets. Every detail matters." I nodded, barely breathing. My eyes scanned the shadows, every alleyway, every doorway, every abandoned car that might conceal an enemy. The streets of the city had transformed into a dangerous labyrinth overnight. The taxi swerved sharply, narrowly avoiding a stalled delivery truck. "Don't move your hands," he hissed. "One wrong signal, one hesitation, and they'll know we're human, not just a moving car." I obeyed, gripping the seat, heart hammering in my chest. The black SUV mirrored our turns, cutting corners with precision, as if anticipating every move. But the driver was smarter, faster, more experienced. Each turn he took was calculated, designed to confuse and disorient. "They're good," I whispered. "They have to be," he said, eyes narrowing. "But we're better. Just keep watching." "Don't panic." We darted down narrow streets, barely wide enough for two cars. The rain soaked our clothes, blurred the neon signs above, and made every reflection on the asphalt a potential threat. I realized with a sinking feeling that we were in no ordinary chase. This was a hunt, and I was the quarry. Suddenly, the SUV accelerated, closing the distance. I flinched as its headlights glared like a predator's eyes. "They're trying to force us into the main street," the driver said grimly. "They want a choke point. Don't let them." He swerved into a side alley I hadn't noticed before. The walls were close, the puddles deep, but we moved like shadows, silent and fast. My stomach churned, but I stayed focused. The driver glanced at me. "You see that building ahead? Rooftop access. We'll lose them there." "It's risky, but it's our only chance." I swallowed hard. "Rooftop? Yes." "Trust me," he said. We skidded into a parking lot, tires squealing. I barely had time to take in the height of the building in front of us. A decrepit, abandoned warehouse, half lit, half shrouded in shadow. He parked quickly, motioning for me to follow. "Keep low, keep quiet. Don't make a sound," he instructed. I followed, heart pounding, as he led me up a fire escape slick with rain. Every step was precarious, every rung threatening to betray us. Behind us, I could hear the SUV's tires skidding, the faint hiss of brakes as they tried to anticipate our moves. We reached the roof. The city stretched below us in a glowing grid, a dangerous beauty. He paused, listening. The SUV was below, circling the block. Their voices were muffled, but I could feel their intent. Hunt, capture, eliminate. "Now," he whispered, "we move across the rooftops. Don't look down, just follow my lead." I followed, heart in my throat, every step feeling like it could be my last. The wind howled, the rain soaked my hair and clothes, and the metal of the rooftops was slick. But step by step, we moved, carefully, silently, as the SUV circled below, searching, calculating, failing to anticipate our audacity. Hours, or maybe minutes, passed. I lost track of time in the tension, in the fear, in the relentless chase. At one point, we had to jump across a gap between two buildings. I hesitated, frozen. "Now!" he shouted. I jumped, landing hard but safely. Pain shot through my ankle, but I kept moving. The driver glanced back. "You're doing great." "Almost there. One more stretch." The rooftop ended at a lower building. He guided me down a fire escape into a narrow alley where a side door led into a hidden basement. "Safe for now," he said, locking the door behind us. I sank against the wall, breathing heavily. "Safe?" I asked, voice shaky. "We're still being followed." He shook his head. "They've lost us for now, but they're patient. They'll come back. We need to stay ahead, always ahead." He handed me a thermos of warm tea. "Drink, focus. We have to plan the next step." I took it, grateful for the brief respite. He sat opposite me, pulling out a small tablet again. Red dots flashed across the city map, their patrols, the checkpoints, the SUV's likely path. "You see this?" he said. "They're organized but predictable. Their confidence is their weakness. If we use it against them, we can control the situation." I nodded, trying to absorb everything. "And what about the police?" "They're unaware of what's really going on," he explained. "They see a suspicious vehicle. They see reports of movement. They're trying to enforce the law, but they don't know the full danger. That works in our favor for now." I realized the scale of what was happening. This wasn't just about me. It wasn't just about survival. It was about strategy, patience, and exploiting every weakness in a calculated game of life and death. Suddenly, the basement door rattled. I froze. "They're testing us," he whispered. "Stay calm, don't make a sound." Footsteps approached, careful, deliberate. The driver moved toward me, whispering instructions. When I signal, we move through the hidden passage. "Stick to the shadows, and whatever you do, do not panic." The footsteps paused, then retreated. I exhaled slowly, relief and fear mingling. "See?" he said quietly. "They're always watching, always calculating. But we're smarter, we adapt, we survive." I realized then that survival wasn't about fighting head-on. It was about staying invisible, staying one step ahead, and trusting someone who had already mastered the game. And in that tense, rain-soaked night, I understood the real chase wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The black SUV would return. The danger was far from gone, but for the first time I felt prepared. The rain had slowed, but the tension inside the hidden basement was suffocating. Every sound, Every creak of the building, every distant siren made me jump. The taxi driver, my lifeline, moved with quiet precision, checking each corner, each shadow. His eyes were sharp, focused, and I realized that tonight, survival wasn't just about moving. It was about anticipating every threat, reading every danger, and staying one step ahead of people who had no mercy. "Ready?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. I nodded, clutching the small flashlight he handed me. I felt my pulse racing, every nerve alert. "Ready," I whispered. He led me up a narrow stairwell, past abandoned storage rooms and old machinery. Each step echoed loudly, and I wondered how he could stay so calm. The black SUV I knew was still tracking us somewhere outside, silent and patient. They had no idea what we were about to do, and that was our advantage. At the top of the stairwell, he paused. "This is it," he said. "Through this door is where we confront them. Stay close, move exactly as I say." My stomach churned. Confront them? After hours of running, hiding, and escaping, I had never imagined there would be a moment where we would face them head on. "They're expecting fear," he continued, "but they won't get it from us. Calm, controlled, that's our weapon." I swallowed hard. "And if they try to, we adapt. We survive, trust me," he said, gripping my shoulder briefly. The door opened to an abandoned warehouse, dimly lit by flickering overhead lights. Shadows stretched across the floor like predatory figures. And then I saw them, the men from the black SUV, moving with purpose, eyes scanning for movement. The driver motioned me behind a stack of crates. "Stay low, follow my lead." We crept forward, silent and calculated. My heart raced, but I realized I was no longer just a frightened passenger. I was part of a plan, part of a strategy to survive and turn the tables. A sudden noise, a dropped wrench, made one of the men spin around. My breath caught in my throat. But the driver acted instantly, tossing a small smoke device into a corner. The cloud expanded, obscuring vision, giving us cover. "Now," he whispered. We moved, weaving through the smoke, staying low, using the shadows to mask our presence. The men stumbled, disoriented, and I realized the advantage we had wasn't strength. It was preparation, timing, and precision. Finally, we reached a set of doors leading outside. Beyond them, the night city awaited, with distant police sirens creating a chaotic symphony. "Almost there," the driver muttered. "One last stretch." Just then, a hand grabbed my arm. I spun, ready to fight, but it was him, the driver's hand steadying me. "Not yet. Let them think they've got you." We waited, hearts pounding as the shadows moved. Then, using a combination of timing and distraction, we sprinted through the doors into the alley. The black SUV roared into view, but police vehicles blocked their exit. A standoff ensued. The driver motioned me behind a dumpster. "Stay, don't move." "Watch!" Through the gaps, I saw the men in black arguing, frustrated. They were trapped, cornered by the law and outmaneuvered by us. The truth hit me like a wave. The police weren't the enemy. They had been unwitting participants in a dangerous game. And now, with the right timing, the criminals were caught in their own trap. The driver whispered, "This is it. We end it now." With precise movements, he signaled to the approaching officers, ensuring that everyone was coordinated. Within moments, the men in black were surrounded, weapons drawn, no escape. Panic replaced confidence in their eyes. And then, just like that, it was over. The danger that had chased us across city streets, rooftops, and alleys was neutralized. I sank against the wall, exhausted, soaked, and trembling. "Is it really over?" I asked. The driver looked at me, a rare smile breaking through his intense demeanor. "For tonight, yes. But remember this, danger is always around the corner. Preparation and trust are the only things that keep you alive." As the police took statements and secured the criminals, he handed me a blanket and a bottle of water. "Drink, breathe. You survived because you trusted, because you stayed calm, and because you followed instructions." I nodded, overwhelmed with relief and exhaustion. I can't believe it's over." He chuckled softly. "Most people can't. Most people panic, make mistakes, and don't make it this far. But you did. You stayed sharp. You adapted, and that's why you're alive." I realized in that moment that the night had changed me. I wasn't the same frightened passenger who had entered the taxi hours ago. I was stronger, more aware, and capable of navigating chaos. As the police escorted me to a safe vehicle, I turned to thank the driver. He nodded, eyes serious. Keep moving forward. Learn from tonight. Trust your instincts. I understood that our journey wasn't just about survival. It was a lesson in courage, strategy, and resilience. He had saved me, yes, but he had also shown me the power of focus and trust in the face of overwhelming fear. The city was quiet again, rain-soaked streets reflecting the flashing police lights. The black SUV was gone, captured, neutralized, but the memory of the chase, the panic, and the relentless tension would stay with me forever. And as I drove away in the safe car, finally heading toward a place of temporary refuge, I realized one undeniable truth. Survival isn't about luck. It's about courage, strategy, and trusting the right person when your life depends on it. The safe car took me to a quiet government building on the outskirts of the city. The rain had stopped, and the world outside looked strangely calm, as if nothing dangerous had ever happened tonight. But inside me, the storm was still raging. My heart hadn't slowed. My mind was still replaying the taxi, the chase, the smoke, the warehouse, everything. A female officer guided me into a small interview room. "He'll be here in a few minutes," she said gently. "Just breathe, you're safe now." Safe. I wasn't sure I remembered what that felt like. I sat down, staring at my trembling hands. I wasn't afraid anymore, but the adrenaline lingered like a shadow. I kept thinking of the taxi driver, his warnings, his instincts, his strange knowledge of everything that was happening before it happened. Who exactly was he, and why did he help me? The door opened. The driver walked in. He no longer looked like a taxi driver. His posture was straighter, his movements sharper. He wore a new jacket, clean and professional, and there was an air of authority around him now. Quiet, controlled, powerful. "Glad you made it," he said simply, taking the seat across from me. I leaned forward. "Please, I need to know. Why did this happen? Why me? Who were those men?" He exhaled, folding his hands. "You deserve the truth. All of it." He pulled out a tablet and tapped the screen. Security footage, documents, and names appeared, none of them familiar to me. "Those men weren't after you by mistake," he said. "They knew exactly who you were and where you would be tonight." My chest tightened. "But why?" "Because of your brother." My breath caught. "My brother? He's been missing for months. And he didn't just disappear," the driver continued. "He was working undercover on a case involving a criminal network that deals with illegal trafficking and intelligence leaks. He gathered evidence, dangerous evidence, and before he went off-grid, he mailed backups to one person he trusted." I blinked. Confused, terrified. "Me?" I whispered. The driver nodded. "Yes, you." My heart sank. My brother. Always protective. Always quiet. He had dragged me into something far beyond anything I could imagine. The driver continued. "Those men thought you had access to the files. They believed your brother told you everything. That's why they were waiting near the apartment you visited tonight." I stared at him, but I didn't know anything. I didn't even know he was working undercover. "And that ignorance," he said softly, "is the only reason you're alive." I swallowed hard, my voice cracked. "So, all of this, the chase, the danger, it wasn't random?" "Not at all," he replied. "And the moment I spotted them tailing your taxi, I knew you weren't just in the wrong place at the wrong time. You were a target." His eyes softened slightly. "That's why I told you not to get out. That's why I intervened." I inhaled deeply, the reality settling on my shoulders like a heavy weight. "Where is my brother now?" He paused. It was a silent, heavy pause. "We don't know," he finally answered. "But we do know he's alive." My eyes widened. "Alive?" "He's in hiding, deep hiding, but after tonight, he'll be forced to surface. He'll know the network tried to reach you. He'll know he has to finish what he started." A surge of relief mixed with fear washed over me. My brother was alive, but still in danger. The driver slid a small envelope across the table. This was found in one of the gang leader's pockets. "It's addressed to you." My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a single folded paper, handwritten. My brother's handwriting. "If they reach you, run. Trust no one, except the man in the yellow taxi. He is the only one I trust with my life and yours." My breath caught in my throat. The driver looked away, clearing his throat. "He asked me to protect you. He didn't expect it would escalate this quickly." I wiped tears from my eyes. "Thank you, you saved my life." He shook his head. "Your brother saved your life. I just followed through." An officer entered and handed the driver another file. He flipped it open, scanned it, and then stood up. "It's time," he said. "For what?" I asked, confused. "To disappear for a while," he replied. "To keep you off their radar until we finish what your brother started." I froze. Disappear for how long? Days. Maybe weeks, maybe longer. His voice was serious but calm. "Until we know they can't reach you." My throat tightened. And my life? My job? My home? "You'll get all of that back," he said gently. "But only if we're smart now." He motioned toward the door. "Come. There's a secure vehicle waiting. A safe house already prepared." I stood, legs weak but determined. "What about you?" He smirked lightly. "I'll be around, not always visible, but around." As we walked toward the exit, I glanced back at the building. Cold lights, gray walls, quiet hallways. This night had changed everything. My brother's secret world had become mine, and the man who was supposed to be just a taxi driver was something far more complex. A protector, a strategist, a ghost in the shadows. Outside, dawn was beginning to break. The first light of morning painted the sky with pale orange and soft blue. A new day, a new danger, a new beginning. I stepped into the secure car. The driver held the door for me. "From now on," he said, "trust your instincts, stay alert. And remember, if something feels wrong, it usually is." I nodded slowly. "And if I see another yellow taxi?" He gave a small, rare smile. "Then you'll know I'm closer than you think." The door closed, the engine started. And as the car rolled toward an unknown safe place, I realized something. My life before tonight was over. But my fight, my story, my survival, it was only just beginning.